For the past 20 minutes, I have been waiting because, it has to rather, allow me to get into Zoom, isn't it? So there were some updates, and all those updates have taken time. Anyhow, shall we start? Now, today we are going to deal with most important, rather, a very important topic or lesson in this particular paper, right? That lesson is Unit 5, Types of Research Methods. Types of research methods. Because every, person who is interested in carrying out research should know what methods are available and which method is suitable method. Otherwise, now we have been talking about research design. How do you really develop a research design? You will not be in a position to develop a research design without knowing, rather without having knowledge of various research methods. So depending on a particular research method, your design will be, right? But then what type of research methods are there? How do you really understand, how do you really identify various types of research? This is very important. Now, how can we identify? As a matter of fact, this is really interesting because as far as library and information science students are concerned, they know how to derive different types or kinds of anything, right? Because we have studied classification theory. So in classification theory, we have learned that the classes will be derived based on the characteristics. So classes in the sense, the divisions. Similarly, the types of research will be in a position to, rather you can derive different types of research methods based on the characteristics of research itself. Now, do you really think that there will be characteristics for research? Research has any characteristics, or research methods have any characteristics? So certainly everything has some characteristics. Like for instance, let us take a case. Based on who is conducting research, you will be in a position to identify different characters, different types of research. Now in your course material, you can see here, now there is solo research. Under, introduction, the course writers have indicated that, there was solo research. Solo research is also a type of research, isn't it? It is a solo research. We are simply saying it is solo research. Why it is solo? Because if one person, one individual, an individual is carrying out single-handed, then it is called solo research. Other definition. After trial and error, some patterns are found, and then such as we may say it is solo, and then it is further carried out by individual efforts. That is what it is. Individual effort. That means a single person, an individual carries out research. Then it is solo research. Now, opposite to solo research, what will it be? Team research, isn't it? That means if many people are collectively carrying out research, it is called team research. So now you understand, it's very simple. That, how do you derive different types of research? Now, for instance, let us take a case of, based on time of your, time with which your research deals with. So based on chronological characteristic, time characteristic, you will have different types of research methods or different types of research. Now how? Because we all know that we have basically three categories of time: past, present, and future, right? So if your research method is pertaining to the past events, In other words, you are conducting research on the past events, what has happened in the past, right? So what method of research you will follow or you will adopt? Now, the method of research that you adopt is historical method, isn't it? It's very simple. Past means history, isn't it? We all, say we call past as history. So the method which we use to carry out research on past events, right? And past, it is called historical method. So that is what is given here. There are, historical research. In what you call section 5.2, there is what you call a full section dedicated to historical research. Now, if you call a research method that deals with past is called historical, then what do you call the research method that deals with the present events, present times? Isn't it? We should have some method to deal with the present times. So that method is called what? That method is called, current research. We can say current research, right? So contemporary research. Contemporary research means belonging to a particular time period, right? And then you have, you can also conduct research on future forecasting. You want, if you want to forecast something, if you want to predict something, so you may carry out research, right? So if you are really conducting research to forecast something, or to what do you call, say, what did I say, that, forecasting, or say planning for future events and trying to predict what will be the future, what will be the future event, then, you have a method. Now that is more or less, Delphi method deals with, forecasting and predicting what do you call, processes, right? So that is how, based on time, based on, who is carrying out, and at the same time, based on the purpose of research, what for you are conducting research, why you are conducting research. So can we have different types of research based on, purpose of research? Research also has some purposes, isn't it? It has some purpose. So based on the purpose, we again, identify types of research. Now, based on purpose means, for instance, you are conducting research. What for you are conducting research? To find out facts, right? Now, to find out facts for what? Why do you want to find out facts? Now, in order to rather gain knowledge, right? In order to understand the reality, right? In order to understand the truth. In other words, what is knowledge? Knowledge is nothing but a body of facts, isn't it? So therefore, now all subjects contain what? The facts only. Every subject contains facts relating to that particular subject or that particular aspect, right? So therefore, now what is that, we are going to, what do you call, do is, we are going to find out facts or generate new knowledge, right? Through research. Now, if you are conducting research to find out facts for only fact's sake, knowledge for knowledge's sake, you want to develop knowledge for only knowledge's sake, right? Then what type of research you are conducting? That is called pure research. Pure research is that rather research which has very pure purpose of generating knowledge or developing knowledge for knowledge's sake only, right? So if that is the case, then you are conducting pure research. And as a matter of fact, the same pure research has its own synonyms. Synonyms means it is also called with some other terms. Now, the other terms for other rather, say expressions for pure research or fundamental research, theoretical research. That means pure research is meant for developing a theory. If you are conducting research to develop a theory, then it is called theoretical research. And if you are conducting research to develop a theory, what do you mean by theory of a subject? Theory of a subject is the base for the subject. So therefore, that type of research is also called as basic research. So fundamental. What is the base? Fundamental, isn't it? Fundamentals means the basics. Fundamentals are basics. So therefore, pure research is also called as fundamental research or basic research or theoretical research, right? So what is that you have done through, say, theoretical research or pure research? You have developed knowledge for knowledge sake. Okay. Now we have knowledge. We have wonderful knowledge. What is the use of having knowledge? Is it that, we always try to gain knowledge only for knowledge sake? Isn't it? So it is not exactly that, we develop knowledge only for knowledge sake. Knowledge is useful to tackle certain problems. Knowledge provides us with some solutions, isn't it? Solutions to day-to-day problems. So therefore, what happens here is, for instance, you have developed a new knowledge. In other words, you have developed new ideas and you have verified whether your ideas are right or wrong, right? Then after conducting research, you verified your ideas and you found that your ideas are correct. But what do you do with the ideas? You all know that, idea phone is there, no? They say that an idea can change your life, isn't it? So ideas should change the life. Ideas should change the world, isn't it? Ideas should change the human society, right? So therefore, now, how ideas will change the human society, ideas will change your life, ideas will change the world, if only you apply those ideas. Apply those ideas, right, to solve problems. Problems that we are facing. Problems that the nature faces, problems that the creators face, problems that the human society faces, isn't it? So if you are applying whatever ideas you have generated and found valid and found correct, useful, then you are applying those ideas. Then how do you apply those ideas? Again, what do you do? In order to apply those ideas to solve a particular problem, you again conduct research. With the help of research, you will be in a position to verify, or you will be in a position to see how best our ideas can be applied to develop new techniques or new devices, new tools, new, new products, okay? All that, new things, right? So in order to develop any new products or new devices, new techniques or anything new, what is that you do? You apply your knowledge and see whether your knowledge can, or your ideas can be applied to solve a particular problem. Now, when you are conducting research to find out whether your ideas can be applied to solve a particular problem in a particular way, what type of research you are conducting? You are conducting applied research. It is very simple. The wording is very simple, please. Why? Because the type of research we call with the word applied research, isn't it? Applied, with the expression applied research. What do you mean by applied research? Applied research is nothing but a research type of research that applies, okay, that applies the existing knowledge, existing theories, existing ideas. And naturally, confusion. So existing theories, existing knowledge, because our ideas, after verification only, they become part of, our established knowledge, right? Established knowledge. And also part of the theory of a subject. So when you want to see how best we can apply a particular theory, right, to solve particular problems, right? So you have to again conduct research. When you are conducting research this way, it is called applied research, right? So this is how, you keep on talking about different types of research. ఇక్కడ చాలా మంచిగా చాలా types of research they have enlisted. Okay, duplication of research and patent. I don't know why they have included duplication of research. Duplication of research is, of course, in my view, it is not exactly a type of research. But at the same time, we have an expression that duplication of research or duplicate research. That means any research activity, research effort that rather duplicates the effort. That means you are again repeating or unnecessarily, what do you call, conducting research on the same problem on which very valid and useful results have come forth. So again, you are wasting your time on that. This is what is called, and actually, as a matter of fact, duplication of research, I think a better word than that is called parallel research. And this is what when parallel individual researchers are carrying out without communication among themselves. ఎందుకంటే duplication, when duplicate research takes place, when duplication of research takes place, we should understand that when there is no communication system is absent, and therefore people do not know what is done by the other persons in other place on what do you call in another places, like say somebody may be carrying out research on some problem in America, and you are conducting on the same problem in the same way in India. So naturally, if there is communication gap or there is no communication, you are not aware that somebody is carrying out research on the same problem, then what is that we are doing? We are conducting parallel research. Parallel research in the sense at the same time, two persons are carrying out research on the same problem in the same way. So that will definitely rather give rise to duplication of research. But at the same time, there is one more thing, please. As a matter of fact, you have to be very clear about this. It is, parallel research maybe sometimes takes place because let us take an example of research on coronavirus itself. Now, so many laboratories throughout the world, so many companies, pharmaceutical companies are carrying out research, isn't it? Is it not duplication of research? Is it not parallel? It is not exactly that. We cannot say that it is duplication because it is in a competitive world, and then everybody wants to find out. And if somebody comes out with what do you call, results much earlier to others, then they will have competitive edge, isn't it? So therefore, they are not duplicating actually. It is a parallel research as a matter of fact. So we may not be in a position to really say that it is parallel research, but indirectly, it amounts to duplication of research. But at the same time, there is no guarantee that a particular organization, particular person will be in a position to come out with valid and then useful results. So therefore, why many people do not carry out research on a particular, significant and most, what do you call, crucial problem? That is allowed. But at the same time, why duplication takes place? Already somebody invents a wonderful medicine, wonderful vaccine. Why you want to again carry out research, okay, and then invent the same medicine or same vaccine? Now this is duplication of research, and it involves wastage of time and money and effort and everything. So therefore, duplication, how do we avoid duplication? That is the reason why, what do? We conduct literature search, and then we present literature review. And in the literature review, we say that this is not, we will what do you call, clearly come to a conclusion that, this is not a duplication. This is a gap in the field. Now you are in a position to follow this. So that is what it is. But sometimes, in the past, parallel research used to take place. And duplication, like, there are some examples like, Lippershey and Galileo, both of them invented the telescope. So that is how, because, Lippershey was not aware that Galileo is carrying out research on this and he is developing a telescope, and Galileo doesn't know that Lippershey is also carrying out research and he is developing. So therefore, both of them have invented the same thing. So anyhow, sometimes we can't help it, but then in order to avoid duplication of research, what do we do? See, this is the same thing they have mentioned here, quotes writer. It is a sheer wastage of time, resources, and money. Duplication of research results in that. Okay. Then you have one more thing, please. Relay research. What is relay research? Idantha brahmananga unnadi ikkada explanation. Okay. But then, let us try to understand in simple terms what is relay research. Relay means what? Relay means, what is relay? Anybody has any idea? Passing on something to somebody else. That is what is called as relay. Passing on something. In other words, relay research means, for instance, I am carrying out research on a particular research problem, right? It may not be possible that I will be in a position to complete the research work, right? At a particular stage, my research work might be stopped. I may not be in a position to move further, right? So what happens? You take up from that particular stage and continue the research. That is called as relay research. Is it clear now? So in other words, relay research is a kind of research that involves continuity of research effort from one end to another end, right? So from one person to another person. So where somebody stops his research work, from there, somebody else takes up. And then that's, what happens here is that, relay research has an advantage and then it is really worthwhile. Why? Because no research effort will come to an end and then abruptly it will not end in the middle, right? So that means, because of relay research, and one day or the other, somebody or the other, because they keep on carrying forward the research effort, they will be in a position to come to a final stage where they will find out the truth or the new knowledge, whatever it is, the facts, and then those facts will be very useful to the society, right? So that is what it is. And then again, there is one more unit, 5.1.3. This is a classification of research. Here you have observation research, empirical research, pragmatic research. Now, as a matter of fact, when it is classification of research, then how do we really go about classification? We need to have, say, classes. Now, that is what I was trying to, do when we want to really understand or derive different types of research. The best way is to classify the research methods. When you classify research methods, how do you classify? Because Ranganathan himself says, the base for classification is characteristics. Therefore, he has propounded, or rather, he has formulated various canons for characteristics. So therefore, you take characteristics of anything, then you will be in a position to derive classes. But here, I do not find the characteristics based on that, deriving classes. But then, they have used a term classification of research. Now here, you have observation research, empirical research, pragmatic research, fundamental research. Now this is, it is not going, in an organized fashion. But when you want to really, derive types of research based on your knowledge of classification, then what do you do? When you say that a particular research type is empirical research, empirical type, then there should be non-empirical research, isn't it? Empirical method and non-empirical methods. Now, that is what it is. And similarly, pragmatic research, pragmatic is practical, right? And pragmatic research, practical means applied research. Actually, pragmatic research is nothing but applied research is also called as pragmatic research. Pragmatic means practical. Now, the applied research is more practical. It is not theoretical. Now, what is that we do when you are carrying out applied research? What is it you are doing? You are applying. That means you are practically seeing the application of your ideas, your knowledge, the facts, isn't it? So therefore, now pragmatic research deals with application. So therefore, the other word for applied research is pragmatic research. And fundamental research is pure research, basic research. So that is what it is. In other words, we have already discussed that based on the purpose of research, we derive these two types. One is basic or fundamental or pure research. The other one is applied or pragmatic research, right? So that is what it is. And then you have say different terms, different terminologies, they, what do you call, coin, and everybody wants to develop new terms, and then they want to really define their own terms. But you read the course material, then you understand what is what. But the basics we should understand. The basics are very important. Like, the methods of research, when it comes to methods of research, just now, that means, methods of research, in other words, it means types of research methods. So what is that we understand, or what is that we derive, is that, different types of research based on time with which the research deals, and then number of persons who are carrying out the research method, who is carrying out the research method. It could be individual research, or what do you call, it could be team research plus, organizational research. You call it as organizational research. Organizational research means an organization conducts research. You understand? Research organizations are there. So it is, once, if you want to know who is conducting research, if a single individual is conducting solo research, and team is conducting, and team may not be an organization piece. It may be, what do you call, an informal team. But when it is called organizational research, a body, an established body, a registered body, or a corporation, an organization, a government body, or maybe an industry, all such, established bodies, organizations carry out research. So that is how, you will be in a position to derive different types of research. But above all these are, rather, say, general types of research. But most important thing is, based on the method of research, we have different types of research. Method which we use, right? Now, for instance, let us take the case. Why should we have so many research methods? Like, we know that research is meant for finding the facts. So it is only a fact-finding process. So there should be only one method, one process, isn't it? Why should we have so many methods? Is it necessary? But then you should understand that for everything, to do anything, you have different ways of doing it, isn't it? You don't have only single method. For instance, you are cooking food. It is only food, but you have different types of food. And each type of food should be prepared in a different way. The method of cooking is different, isn't it? You cannot cook biryani as you cook ordinary rice, isn't it? You cannot cook pulao as you cook biryani, right? So therefore, for everything, you have a specific different method. Now, if for ordinary processes, ordinary works, you have different methods and different, what do you call, styles of doing it. Don't you think that research, as we have discussed, is a very serious activity? It is very crucial activity, significant activity, important activity. Based on that, the whole human society depends. So for such serious, rigorous, and systematic or scientific activity, should you not have specific methods to deal with the different problems? Because we are dealing with problems only, research problem only, but the research problems are different from each other or one another, isn't it? There are different research problems. So you cannot deal with each different research problem with the same method. For every research problem, you have to have a specific method. Now, for instance, I will give you a simple example. Now, let us take what do you call attendance in university libraries. You want to carry out a study on whether there is good attendance, say users, what is the use? In other words, rate of use of university libraries in Hyderabad. Okay, you have about 10 universities and dozen universities in Hyderabad, in and around Hyderabad. Okay, so in these university libraries, are the students going? They are using these libraries. To what extent they are using? How many students visit the library every day? And how library is full, whether it is house full, library full, or empty library. What is it? Now, what is the extent of use? Because this is very important. If our libraries are not used, then why should we have a building? Why should we have collection? All that, isn't it? Now, again, these days you have online libraries, and nobody is going to libraries or colleges and schools and everywhere, and they are doing everything online. But when you have online libraries, why should you have a big library building and then books, number of books, and all that? Now, in the period of digital era, okay, online era, is it that students are still visiting library or not? You want to find out, isn't it? So again, you want to carry out a study on this particular aspect, right? Then how do you carry out research? How do you carry out research? The method should be, what method is best method? Do you conduct an experiment? What experiment do you want to conduct? Isn't it? So it doesn't call for experimentation, isn't it? So what method we have to follow is, for instance, you go to the libraries, you visit the libraries and see whether they are full or not, isn't it? That means what? You are
Analyzing the
seeing,
data.
you are observing, please, not analyzing, you are observing. So what type of method you have to use? You are using observation method, because if you go there and see, you will be in a position to know whether it is full or not, right? But that full or empty or half, that is not really, that will not give clear picture. Now it may look like full, but how full it is. Again, as our friend said, analyzing data, it is, before analyzing data, you have to collect data, isn't it? So how do you collect data then? Again, data collection methods are there, but at the same time, all this is, it involves observation method. Basically, of course, we will talk about data collection method. How do we collect data relating to this particular aspect? That is a different, what do you call, subject altogether, or the aspect altogether. So first of all, what we need to understand is that, there are certain things which need to be observed. For instance, you want to conduct, what do you call, say, a study on solar energy, or rather, sun, how hot is sun, how big is sun, okay? How, what do you call, what is the distance between sun and earth? All these things you want to find out, right? Now, what do? Do you conduct an experiment? Again, it is an observation only, isn't it? You observe how hot is sun. With certain instruments, you observe the heat produced by sun, isn't it? That is what it is. So you don't conduct any experiment. There is no need for experimentation. You can't experiment also. What kind of experiment? Does it mean that you create heat on sun? Impossible, isn't it? So therefore, it is all observation research that takes place. Observation is, for instance, you have various types of problems, like let us take the case of the geographical boundaries of various places, various geographical regions. So what do? You see, you observe how the geographical area is spread, right? And then what are the boundaries. This is all observation research only. You need not conduct an experiment on that. What kind of experiment you conduct, right? So that's there are various, what do you call, for instance, let us take a case. I will give a classic example, like right, what is the life cycle of butterflies, life cycle of mosquitoes, life cycle of flies, you understand, life cycle of a frog. Now how do? Do you conduct an experiment? There is no need to conduct an experiment. What is that you have to do? You have to observe how the frogs are being, rather born, right? and how they are from tadpole to what you call eggs and then other stages of it, tadpole to final frog. How it is developing, how it is rather, say there is also particularly as far as butterflies and other flies are concerned, metamorphosis. Metamorphosis takes place. Metamorphosis, how it is taking place. Now, how do you do it? You need not really conduct any experiment on it. You have to observe. So by observation method, there are several topics. For several topics, what method you use? You use observation only. For instance, even in human behavior also, if you want to really conduct a study on, how the users are behaving in the library, what do? You have to see, you go there and then see how they are behaving. Then you will understand. So to just, relieve you from, what you call continuous, say, lecturing on this, I will give some examples. Observation చేస్తుంటే ఎంత మస్తు మజా వస్తుంది అన్నమాట. Beautiful. You really enjoy. I have observed how students in university libraries use the university libraries. వాళ్ళు ఎట్లా యూజ్ చేస్తున్నారు, ఒక్కొక్కరు ఒక్కొక్క విచిత్రంగా ఉంటారు అనమాట. చెప్పమంటారా అది? ఒకసారి ఇట్లా పోయినా, నేను పోతుంటే ఒక ఆయన శీర్షాసనం వేసుకొని కూర్చున్నాడు లైబ్రరీలో. శీర్షాసనం అంటే తెలుసు కదా మీకు, ఆయన సీట్ల సరిగా కూర్చోలే, సీట్ల ఇట్లా కిందికి వెళ్ళిపోయి కాళ్ళు టేబుల్ మీద పెట్టి పుస్తకం పట్టుకొని చదువుతున్నాడు. ఆయన కనబడలే నాకు, ఆయన కాళ్ళు కనబడుతున్నాయి నేను పోతుంటే. See how wonderful a person is seated in the university library. ఆయన పెద్ద మన ఏంటంటే పోస్ట్ గ్రాడ్యుయేట్ స్టూడెంట్ ఉండొచ్చు ఆయన, పాపము బాగా చదువుకొని అట్లా కూర్చోవాలని నేర్చుకున్నాడు ఆయన. ఇంకొక ఆయన ఏమో పండుకుంటున్నాడు మంచి యూనివర్సిటీ లైబ్రరీకి వచ్చేసేసి, ఎందుకంటే లైబ్రరీలో సైలెన్స్ ఉంటుంది కదా, సైలెన్స్ అని బోర్డు ఉంటుంది అక్కడ. సో అండ్ దెన్ ఇంకొక ఆయన ఏమో అక్కడ పుస్తకాలు పెట్టిపోయాడు, అక్కడ ఏం లేదు. నేను పోయి కూర్చుంటే వచ్చేసేసి కిటికీలు పెట్టుకుంటాడు. నువ్వు ఎట్లా కూర్చుంటావు, నేను ఇక్కడ పుస్తకాలు పెట్టిపోయినా. సో దిస్ ఈస్ ఆల్ బిహేవియర్. బట్ హౌ డూ యూ రియాక్ట్? Do you conduct an experiment? What kind of experiment you conduct on this? So it is only observation method. So as there are several topics, and then depending on the nature of the topic, type of the topic, type of research method comes into picture. Okay, so you have to select that. And then, for instance, that is what I said. If you want to conduct research on the past events, then which method you select? You can't select any contemporary experiment. Past మీద మనం experiment చేస్తామా? Try to just think. What kind of experiment you carry out on past? Past is past, over. It is over. So on present events, present phenomena, you can conduct experiments. But you cannot conduct an experiment on past events and past phenomena. Okay? So therefore, what method you use? You have to use historical method only. So there is a specific method that is called historical method. So that will tell you how do you really study the past events. You understand this? So that method is valid method. That method will be really useful for you to really explore the past, right? So that is how it is. Please, are you able to follow me or not?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Am I clear? So,
Yes, sir.
and one more. Now, let us come to experimental method. Why do you conduct experiment? Where is the need to carry out experiment? Is there any need to carry on what you conduct experiment?
In
So,
science subjects.
Scientific principle.
Very good. Science subjects la kuda manamu observation. ఇప్పుడు now science subject kada ఏది now life cycle of butterfly అన్నాము, it is science కదా. అట్లా life cycle of frog అన్నాము, it is science only, right? So behavior of animals కోతులు ఎట్లా బిహేవ్ చేస్తాయి, పాములు ఏం చేస్తాయి, పాములు ఎక్కడ ఉంటాయి, ఇవన్నీ కూడా సైన్స్ సబ్జెక్ట్స్. But then the point here is you are right. As a matter of fact, it's not only science, even in social sciences also to a certain extent we carry out experimental research. But experimental research is more foolproof, okay? Rather, more what you call useful, and rather it yields precise results in the field of pure sciences, science and technology, right? So అక్కడ మనము సైన్స్ అండ్ టెక్నాలజీ లోపల, యాజ్ యూ రైట్లీ సెడ్, కరెక్ట్గా చెప్పారు మీరు, సైన్స్ సబ్జెక్ట్స్ లోపల ఎందుకు చేస్తాం అంటే ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్స్ చేస్తే రిజల్ట్స్ కరెక్ట్గా వస్తాయి. బట్ ఆన్ వాట్ యూ ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్, దిస్ ఇస్ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. వెన్ డు యూ ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్, వెన్ డు యూ సెలెక్ట్ experimental method. Experimental method అంటే ఏంటిది? When do we select it? So when do we select it? Now there must be a condition. There must be a particular, what do you call,
rules and regulations.
అట్లా కండిషన్. ఆ కండిషన్ ఏంటంటే, now when you are trying to test the relationship between two variables, are you able to follow this? When we want to test the relationship between two variables, then the best method is experimental method. Is it clear now? Because you want to find out the relation between variables. Now in the other class, other day I have talked about variables, isn't it? Variables and the factors that tend to vary, isn't it? The factors that tend to vary. That means the factors that have the basic nature of changing. They change in terms of their properties, right? Weight కావచ్చు, height కావచ్చు, color కావచ్చు, taste కావచ్చు, anything please. Quantity, quality, all that, right? So they are, and therefore actually variables లోపల ఏంటంటే ఇట్లా డీటెయిల్ గా చెప్పాలంటే చాలా టైం అవుతుంది. బట్ స్టిల్ I want to go back and again repeat something. అండ్ అక్కడ చెప్పలేదు ఎందుకనంటే అంత మీరు చదువుకోవాలి. దిస్ ఈజ్ ఓన్లీ అ కౌన్సిలింగ్ క్లాస్ అని చెప్పి నేను అక్కడక్కడ కట్ చేసి ఇస్తుంటాను. యాజ్ అ మ్యాటర్ ఆఫ్ ఫ్యాక్ట్, వెన్ ఇట్ కమ్స్ టు వేరియబుల్స్ నాకు 1 hour అవుతుంది. వేరియబుల్స్ గురించి ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయాలంటేనే 1 hour అవుతుంది. ఇక మీరు ఒక లెసన్ అంతా పోతుంది. బట్ అట్ ద సేమ్ టైమ్ యూ షుడ్ ఆల్సో నో దట్ there are different types of variables. మనం ఏమని చెప్తున్నాం? డిపెండెంట్ వేరియబుల్, ఇండిపెండెంట్ వేరియబుల్, ఇంటర్వీనింగ్ వేరియబుల్ అన్నాం కదా. బట్ above this basic level, at basic level, again, characteristics of anything, if you apply, you will be in a position to derive types and different. So at one, what you call level, see, you will also have 2 types of variables depend on their quality. That means quantitative variables and qualitative variables. Quantitative variables and qualitative variables. So in other words, it means that a variable is a factor, right? A variable is a factor, but how does it vary? Where and when it varies? And it varies in terms of quantity, it varies in terms of quality also, right? So this is what it is. You are able to follow this? So quantitative variables, qualitative variables. Quantitative variable and quantitative variable etlunటది? You can quantify the what you call say characteristics or factors relating to that particular, the nature of the variable itself. You can quantify. In other words, what do you mean by quantify? How do you quantify? For instance, let us take a case of weight of a person. Weight of a person, can you quantify or not? We can measure in quantitative terms, right? So that is quantitative variable. And then the 2 కిలోలు ఉండొచ్చు, 10 కిలోలు ఉండొచ్చు, 100 కిలోలు ఉండొచ్చు, 200 కిలోలు కూడా ఉండొచ్చు మనిషి. That is a measure. Rather, we can use a scale, you can use a measuring device, measuring instrument, and measure the weight, right? So that is one thing. Now the other day I gave an example. If you eat more, you gain more weight. You understand? Annam kada. So ikkada emunnadi? Food. If you eat more, food is the variable. How it is variable? How it is variable? The quantity of food is also varying, isn't it? If you eat more, and you 10 గ్రాములు తినొచ్చు, 100 గ్రాములు తినొచ్చు, 1 కిలో తినొచ్చు, 5 కిలోలు తినొచ్చు, isn't it? So that the quantity of that particular factor is variable. It varies. And similarly, the weight of the person. So is there any relation between the weight of a person and the amount of food consumed? Are you able to understand this? Is there any relation?
Yeah, yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
there should be relation. There may be relation, may not be relation. When do you find out? After conducting research, you will find out whether there is relation between food intake and then gaining of weight, isn't it? So that is what it is. And we will see, after conducting research only, you will be in a position to come to a correct conclusion. Otherwise, General conclusions are what? General conclusions may not be valid, may not be correct, right? So therefore, now when it comes to, let us take this example itself. What is that you want to do? You want to really find out whether amount of food is the cause for weight gain or weight loss, isn't it? So weight gain or weight loss depends on what? The amount of food you are taking, type of food you are taking, whatever it is, right? So now your weight is depending, it is dependent variable, depending on what? The food, type of food or amount of food. Now we are not dealing with, see, research is a focus study, I said. So we are not going to deal with, the type of food. First, we will deal with amount of food. One food, only rice. If you take 1 kg rice, how much weight you gain? If you take 10 kgs rice, how much weight you gain? So this is what it is. That is how it should be. So if it is focused one, then you will be in a position to come to definite conclusions. So therefore, after conducting research, you can say that you don't consume more rice. You will gain more weight, isn't it? So this is how it is. So if you say that, what do you call, say, type of food means, what type of food? Again, you take one type of food, right? And then see that type of food, whether it is having any impact on the dependent variable, that is your weight. You understand? So now, in order to really conduct a study, find out the relation between these two, what is that you do? Do you observe? Observation is part of every research, please try to understand this also. We will be observing, but here our observation is not fundamental, rather a process. It is not a basic process. We observe, every research involves observation. But here, basically what is that you are doing? You are conducting an experiment. You have to conduct an experiment to test the relationship between these variables. Is there any relation? Now here what happens, for instance, by eating rice, you may not gain any weight, please. Try to understand this. I said you may not, because మనం ఇప్పుడు రీసెర్చ్ చేస్తున్నాం కాబట్టి ఇప్పుడే రీసెర్చ్ చేస్తున్నాం, మనకు తెలియదు. రీసెర్చర్ ఎవరు? ఏదైతే తెలియని దాని మీదనో ఆయన రీసెర్చ్ చేస్తున్నాడు. మనం కూడా ఏంటంటే నౌ వీఆర్ డీలింగ్ విత్ ఎవ్రీ రీసెర్చ్ ప్రాబ్లమ్ అని అంటే మనకు ఆల్రెడీ తెలిసిన వాటి మీద ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్ ఇస్తున్నాయి. నేను ట్రై టు అండర్స్టాండ్, డోంట్ గెట్ మిస్లెడ్ అండ్ డోంట్ మిస్అండర్స్టాండ్. సో మనం ఏంటంటే నౌ వీఆర్ ట్రైంగ్ టు అండర్స్టాండ్ రీసెర్చ్ మెథడాలజీ. రీసెర్చ్ మెథడాలజీ అండర్స్టాండ్ చేసుకోనికి మనం ఏం చేస్తున్నాం, సమ్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్ ఇస్తున్నాం. ఈ ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్ అన్ని ఏంటంటే మనకు తెలియని అనుకోవాలన్నమాట. ఫస్ట్ లో మనం కండక్ట్ చేస్తున్నాం రీసెర్చ్. నౌ దిస్ you should keep on your mind. Okay, so we are conducting research on the relation between rice and then weight, isn't it? Right? Is it clear? So inlo emaitundante manam em cheyali, the person should have only rice. A rice tarvata em cheyali, rice. See, this is called research design. Design lo em chestamu, what rice contains. It contains starch, sugar, edo antam kada manam. Okay, glucose, right? కాబట్టి ఏంటంటే గ్లూకోజ్ ఇస్తున్నాము. గ్లూకోజ్ తర్వాత ఏమి చేయాలి? ఇంకా మళ్ళీ గ్లూకోజ్ ఇద్దామా? ఇంకా గ్లూకోజ్ ఇస్తే రైస్, ఇది రైస్ తోటి వెయిట్ పెరుగుతుందా లేకపోతే ఆ గ్లూకోజ్ తోటి వెయిట్ పెరుగుతుందా మనకి తెలియదు. అందుకని ఏం చేయాలి? ఓన్లీ రైస్ వి విల్ గివ్. కారమో మిరియమో పచ్చడో ఏదో వేసేసేసి యూ విల్ బి ఫీడింగ్ దట్ పర్సన్, రైట్? దిస్ ఇస్ వన్ థింగ్. అండ్ అట్ ద సేమ్ టైమ్ వాట్ హ్యాపెన్స్, యు ఆర్ ఫీడింగ్ దట్ పర్సన్ విత్ ఓన్లీ రైస్ అండ్ కర్డ్, రైస్ అండ్ పికిల్, రైస్ అండ్ పప్పు, ఏదో ఒకటే ఇస్తున్నాం మనం. we want to observe how this particular, again you are conducting an experiment, please, but in the experimental research also observation takes place. What is how observation and when observation takes place? After you administering the treatment, you are giving treatment to the person. Treatment ante entidi? Rice istunam anamata. This is called treatment. You are giving a particular treatment to that particular subject. This is called subject. Subject ante ikkada ichcharu, we will definition ichcharu. Yesterday also we were discussing about subject. Subject ante endante, a subject in an experiment is the basic unit on which an experiment is performed. Now you are performing experiment on a basic unit. Unit ante ikkada that particular person is one person. అందుకని ఇక్కడ ఏమంటారంటే యాక్చువల్గా ఈ యూనిట్ ఇవన్నీ ఏంటంటే దీస్ ఆర్ ఆల్ సినానిమస్ టర్మ్స్. ఇక్కడ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ కూడా ఇచ్చారు. ఎగ్జాంపుల్ లైబ్రరీ యూజర్స్, subjects are patrons. They are called students are patrons. The librarians are the subjects in library-based experiments. So that is what it is. So here subject anagane it is not exactly a science ani gaadu, a field of study gaadu ikkada. Research methodology ee subject lopala you should understand that, okay, when a person is talking about subjects of the research, subjects of the research means the units on which the study is taking place. Is it clear? For instance, you are conducting study on rats, right? What are your subjects in research methodology terms? The rats are your subjects. వీటిని ఏమంటామంటే మనము దెర్ ఆర్ సినానిమ్స్ ఫర్ ది సబ్జెక్ట్. సబ్జెక్ట్ అనేది మనం జనరల్ గా యూజ్ చేయొచ్చు, కానీ ఒక్కోసారి కన్ఫ్యూజన్ వస్తుంది. కేసెస్ అంటాము, ఎలిమెంట్స్ అనొచ్చు, యూనిట్స్. సో subjects are nothing but the elements or the units or the cases on which the study is taking place. Experiment తీసుకోవాలని ఏం లేదు, ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్ చేయాలని ఏం లేదు. ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్ దాంట్లో సబ్జెక్ట్స్ అని బాగా యూజ్ చేస్తారు. బట్ దెన్ every research activity, if research activity is conducted on a particular unit or particular element, particular elements or particular units or particular say cases, that is they are called as subjects, right? Don't get confused. Same subjects manamu units anachu, elements anachu, cases anachu, right? So what is that you are going to do here? You are giving treatment to the subject, right? So you are conducting an experiment. After conducting experiment, what is that you are doing? You are observing whether he is gaining weight or not, isn't it? సో అప్పుడు వెయిట్ ఎట్లా వెయిట్ చేస్తాం, మళ్ళీ ఆయనని జోక్తా ఉంటాం. సో దాని మీద వెయింగ్ మిషన్ మీద నిలబెట్టేసేసి తెస్తుంది. అండ్ యాజ్ అ మ్యాటర్ ఆఫ్ ఫ్యాక్ట్ డేటా కలెక్షన్ కమ్స్ ఇన్ టు పిక్చర్. వై డేటా కలెక్షన్ కమ్స్ ఇన్ టు పిక్చర్? వాట్ డేటా కలెక్షన్, వెన్ డేటా కలెక్షన్, హౌ మచ్ డేటా కలెక్షన్. అంటే ఇవాళ ఒక రోజు 10 కిలోలు అన్నం తినిపించేసి ఆయన ఎంత పెరుగుతాడు అని అంటే పెరుగుతాడా? ఏం పెరుగుతాడు, ఆయనకన్నీ విరేచనాలు పట్టుకుంటాయి. ఓకే, సో ఇట్స్ ఆఫ్ నో యూజ్. సో దేర్ ఫోర్ వాట్ డూ యూ డూ? You keep on feeding him 1 kg rice every day. అట్లా చేసుకుంటా every day you observe his weight. ఒక వారం రోజుల తర్వాత ఏమైనా వెయిట్ పెరుగుతుందా, 10 days తర్వాత పెరిగిందా, 1 month తర్వాత పెరిగిందా, ఎప్పుడు పెరుగుతున్నది వెయిట్, ఎంత పెరుగుతున్నది. సో ఓవర్ ఎ పీరియడ్ ఆఫ్ టైం, ఇప్పుడు 6 months లోపల 6 months ఫీడ్ చేసినాం మనం. సో వాట్ ఈస్ దట్ యు ఆర్ డూయింగ్ నౌ? యు ఆర్ కండక్టింగ్ ఎన్ ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్, యు ఆర్ అబ్జర్వింగ్ ద రిజల్ట్స్, రైట్? ఇన్ అదర్ వర్డ్స్ the data results, appude final results gavi, observing day to day results, right? They are called day to day results. So that avitne endante results ane sariki finally results antam man. Andukane we em chesante we have to use specific terms. Try to understand this please. The most beauty of any subject lies in the terminology. Meeku terminology ochindante you will write a wonderful answer, right? So language and then jargon. Language in the sense, general knowledge, general language. Would English manchiga raavali, lega Telugu manchiga raavali manaku. In addition to that, what do you call, general knowledge of the language, you should also acquire knowledge of the jargon. Jargon means what? The technical terminology. Technical terms are very important, because if you use these technical terms, then the readers will understand what you are talking about. Isn't it? Right? That is what it is. So, ikkada manamu we are conducting experiment, we are observing, and then our observations are called data. You are noting down, jotting down all your observations, and they become the data. And finally, you analyze. Itla friend cheppinattu, mana friend cheppindu enta mundu analyze data annaru. Finally, what do you do? Data edaithe manam collect chestamo, all our observations we analyze. In other words, all our data we analyze. Analyze చేసినప్పుడు మనకి ఏమని తెలుస్తాయంటే, yes, ఇట్లా రైస్ తింటే వారం రోజులలో ఈ రిజల్ట్ వస్తుంది, నెల రోజులలో ఈ రిజల్ట్ వస్తుంది, ఫైనల్ గా ఇంత లోపల ఈ పీరియడ్ లోపల ఇంత రిజల్ట్ వస్తుంది. సో ఇట్ ఈస్ వెయిట్ గెయినింగ్ ఫుడ్ అని చెప్పేసి ఫైనల్ కన్క్లూషన్కి వస్తాం. Isn't it? Is it clear? So that is what it is. Now what is that I'm talking about? Now why do you conduct experiment? When do you conduct experiment? అని అడిగితే మనకి ఇప్పుడు మన లైబ్రరీ అండ్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ సైన్స్ లోపల ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్స్ చేయగలుగుతామా, చేయొచ్చా? Now when it comes to library and information science, ఇక్కడ there are అప్పుడప్పుడు మీకు క్వశ్చన్స్ వస్తాయి, మేజర్ ఎస్ఏ క్వశ్చన్ వస్తుంది. క్వశ్చన్ ఏంటంటే library and information science, what methods are relevant? Okay, what research methods are relevant to carry out research in the field of library and information science? Library and information science lopala ye methods are more suitable, more relevant for carrying out research in the field of library and information science? What are the methods that are useful anante daniki mana em cheyalante, actually it is a very big subject, it is a very big topic. This topic itself is a very big topic. ఎందుకంటే ఫస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఆల్ యూ షుడ్ అండర్స్టాండ్, ఇంతకుముందు మీరు అన్న తక్కువ ఆన్సర్ ఇచ్చిన ఒకటి, మనం ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్స్ ఎక్కడ చేస్తాము అని అంటే సైన్స్ లోపల చేస్తామని. ఇజంట్ ఇట్? సైన్స్ అంటే ఏం సైన్స్? ఈజ్ ఇట్ సోషల్ సైన్స్? ఈజ్ ఇట్ అప్లైడ్ సైన్స్ ఆర్ ప్యూర్ సైన్స్? ఇట్లా డౌట్స్ వస్తాయి కదా. సో సైన్స్ అని అంటే ఏంటిది? ఇప్పుడు మన మిత్రురాలు చెప్పింది ప్యూర్ సైన్స్ అన్నది. సైన్స్ అనగానే మనకు జనరల్ గా ఏం ఐడియా వస్తుందంటే ప్యూర్ సైన్స్ ఐడియా వస్తుంది. లైక్ బయాలజీ, రైట్, కెమిస్ట్రీ, ఫిజిక్స్, ఇవన్నీ ఏంటంటే సైన్సెస్. దీస్ ఆర్ ఆల్ ద ప్యూర్ సైన్సెస్, ఇజంట్ ఇట్? మరి సైన్స్ లో ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్ చేసేటప్పుడు లైబ్రరీ అండ్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ సైన్స్ అని పెట్టుకున్నాం మనం. ఈజ్ ఇట్ ప్యూర్ సైన్స్? Now you have
applied science.
Yeah. Very good.
Applied science.
Yeah, you have to again decide whether it is pure science or applied science, what science it is. So if it is applied science, if it is not pure science, can we use experimental design? Can we apply experimental design? That is the question, basic question, right? Aithe now for instance manamu applied science అని అన్నాము, పొలిటికల్ సైన్స్ ఉన్నది, ఈజ్ ఇట్ అప్లైడ్ సైన్స్? పొలిటికల్ సైన్స్ కూడా సైన్స్ అని ఉన్నది, ఈజ్ ఇట్ ప్యూర్ సైన్స్? సోషల్ సైన్స్, రైట్? ఇది సోషల్. మరి సైన్స్ అని ఉన్నది కదా అక్కడ పదం. యు అండర్స్టాండ్? అయితే సోషల్ సైన్సెస్ లోపల కూడా సైన్స్ అనే పదం ఉన్నది, బట్ దే ఆర్ నాట్ ప్యూర్ సైన్సెస్, ఇజంట్ ఇట్? సో దట్ ఈస్ వాట్ యూ షుడ్ అండర్స్టాండ్. యూ షుడ్ ట్రై టు థింక్ whether a particular discipline, particular field of study is pure science or applied science or social science or humanities, what it is. And once you understand what it is, then you will be in a position to say decide, right? Come to an idea that whether a particular method can be applied or not. If you feel that library and information science is an applied science, then naturally you can use what? Experimental design, because it is an applied science. No, you are applying something. When you are applying something, that particular thing, is it really what do you call well applied, and this application is useful or useless, and what it is. But for your kind information, in most of the universities, library and information science is grouped under social sciences. Social sciences అనేసరికి ఏంటంటే సోషల్ సైన్సెస్ లోపల మనము experimental method use చేయగలుగుతామా? which methods are suitable for social sciences? Social sciences అనేసరికి ఏంటంటే they are also called as, social sciences are also called as behavioral sciences. Behavioral sciences. On behavior, human behavior, conducting experiment is very, very difficult, right or wrong? Because on human behavior, for instance, let us take a case. Animal behavior mida you can conduct an experiment, but human behavior it is not possible, because human behavior changes from person to person. Animal behavior and then behavior of the natural elements, okay, that doesn't change. For instance, if you are conducting an experiment on gold, silver anukundam manam, so akkada emaitadi gold nature gaani silver nature gaani Okay. And then say Pamela nature, Tela nature, Kotula nature, it will not change. Usually the pattern of their behavior is same, but human behavior is not like that, isn't it? For instance, let us take a case. So simple example is ఒక అరటిపండు అక్కడ పెట్టినాం అనుకోండి, నాలుగు కోతులు ఉంటే ఏం చేస్తాయి? డెఫినెట్ గా టకటక వచ్చేసి తీసుకొని పోతాయి. మనం అట్లనే ఒక అరటిపండు అక్కడ పెట్టినాం అనుకోండి, పెడితే హ్యూమన్ బీయింగ్స్ వచ్చి తీసుకుంటారా? తీసుకోరు. ఓకే, 100 రూపాయలు పెట్టినాం అనుకో, అందరూ చూసి తీసుకుంటారా? కొందరు తీసుకోవచ్చు, కొందరు తీసుకోకపోవచ్చు. ఇట్ ఈస్ అన్ప్రెడిక్టబుల్. ఆల్ హ్యూమన్ బిహేవియర్ విల్ నాట్ బి సేమ్. ఒకరికి ఏంటంటే ఇంత చిన్న హెల్ప్ చేస్తే సార్ థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్ అంటారు. ఒకరికి ఇంత హెల్ప్ చేస్తే కూడా మనకే షటకోపం పెట్టి పోతాడు. ఇజంట్ ఇట్? సో దట్ ఫెలో సేస్ దట్ నేను హెల్ప్ చేసిండు అదేమా అంటే, it means that behavioral sciences, human behavior is not constant, human behavior is not uniform. When it is neither constant nor uniform, it is very difficult for us to conduct research. So experiment we can conduct only on those, what you call, say subjects, or only on those aspects, rather factors, which do not change. They have uniform and consistent nature, consistent behavior, right? Or uniform behavior. So that is what it is. So we have to think of all this. But at the same time, even in library and information science, as our friend said, it is applied science. To a certain extent, it is also applied science, because we are applying various tools and techniques. So when you are applying various classification scheme, cataloging codes, okay, indexing techniques are there, and now you have machine learning, rather machine retrieval systems, right? So online, what do you call, information delivery, all that. So whether it is delivered properly, whether these indexing systems and indexing techniques are effective or not, whether our classification scheme is whether user friendly or not, or cataloging system, to what extent it proves to be a very good retrieval system. All these things, how do you understand? How do you really come to a conclusion? How do you find out? Again, finding out is the basic fact, rather than the purpose of research. So in order to find out our catalogs are effective or not, our classification scheme is effective or not, indexing and abstracting services are effective or not, okay, our online services are effective or not, what is that we have to do? We have to conduct experiments. So experimentation is possible even in library and information science, right? So this is how it goes about this. So ఇంకా మీకు ఇప్పుడు అర్థం కావాలి అన్ని ఏంటంటే వేరియస్ రీసెర్చ్ మెథడ్స్ ఎట్లా ఉంటాయి, ఎందుకు వస్తాయి, ఇవన్నీ ఈ టైప్స్ ఆఫ్ రీసెర్చ్ ఎందుకు ఇట్లా. ఓకే, సో మనము ఎక్స్పెరిమెంటల్ రీసెర్చ్ కు పోయే ముందర ఇంకా కొన్ని వాట్ యూ కాల్ 1 or 2 రీసెర్చ్ మెథడ్స్ గురించి మాట్లాడుకొని దెన్ వీ విల్ గో టు ఎక్స్పెరిమెంటల్ మెథడ్. లైక్ ఫర్ ఇన్స్టాన్స్ మనం ఏమని చెప్పినాము, types of research lopala you have another most popular research method, that is called survey, isn't it? Now when do you conduct survey? Why do you conduct survey? You understand what situation calls for application of survey method? This is another important aspect. What situation calls for survey method? And if you are conducting a study dealing with large group of subjects, or subjects and అర్థమైపోయింది కదా, subjects means the research elements, research units, cases, okay, large group or large geographical area, or a sizable population, right? Then if you are, because when you are dealing with say a huge number of cases, right, then it is usually called survey. Of course, huge number of cases is the experiment kuda cheyochu, but then when it is other than experimentation, right, if you are conducting any study on a large group, then it is usually called survey, right? Survey and everything is a survey, right? How surveys, why surveys come into picture? For instance, let us take a case. What case we will take? Floods వచ్చేసినాయి. Okay, are you able to listen to me? Am I audible? Clear? Yes or no? Am I
Yes,
audible?
sir.
Yeah. Now, I will give you an example. Floods వస్తాయి కదా, floods అంటే వరదలు, రైట్? ఫ్లడ్స్ వచ్చినాయి ఒక ఏరియాలో, ఎక్కడ ఒరిస్సాలో ఫ్లడ్స్ వచ్చినాయి. ఫ్లడ్స్ వచ్చి 100 గ్రామాలు కొట్టుకపోయినాయి. ఓకే, 100 villages are marooned under floods, right? Now, what is the extent of damage caused by these floods? How do you find out? What do you do? Experiment చేస్తామా మనం?
Survey.
Experiment is not at all. What experiment you do? అన్ని మునిగిపోయినాక మనం పోయి అక్కడ ఏం ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్? టెస్ట్ ట్యూబ్ తీసుకపోయి సర్వే మనకి ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్ చేస్తామా? లాబొరేటరీ తీసుకపోయి అక్కడ ఎస్టాబ్లిష్ చేస్తామా? ఇట్స్ మీనింగ్లెస్. సో వాట్ ఈస్ దట్ వీ డూ ఈస్ వీ కండక్ట్ ఎ సర్వే. విచ్ సర్వే వీ కండక్ట్? ఏరియల్ సర్వే అంటాం. ఇంకోటి ఎందుకంటే మొత్తం నీళ్ళే ఉన్నాయి, ఆ నీళ్ళలో పోయి ఎక్కడ ఏం చూస్తాం మనం, ఏం చూడలేం కదా. సో ఏరియల్ సర్వే మన వాళ్ళు అంటే ఏం చేస్తారు, ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్ చీఫ్ మినిస్టర్ వేసేసి అట్లా అని వాళ్ళు ఒక సర్వే చేస్తారు, ఏరియల్ సర్వే. మన దగ్గర సమగ్ర సర్వే కూడా అయ్యింది. అంటే భూములు ఎంత ఉన్నాయి, ఎక్కడెక్కడ ఉన్నాయి, ఎవరెవరిది ఏమేమి భూమి, ఇదంతా ఏంటంటే దీనికి ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్ చేసేది ఏం లేదు. సో నౌ యూ అండర్స్టాండ్ దిస్. సో దిస్ ఇస్ ఆల్ సర్వే కూడా అట్లనే ఏంటంటే మన దగ్గర ఎన్ని లైబ్రరీస్ చాలా దీనమైన స్థితిలో ఉన్నాయి. హౌ మెనీ లైబ్రరీస్ డూ నాట్ హ్యావ్ షెల్ఫ్స్, డూ నాట్ హ్యావ్ రీడింగ్ రూమ్స్, డూ నాట్ హ్యావ్ చైర్స్ అండ్ టేబుల్స్, అండ్ దెన్ డూ నాట్ హ్యావ్ బుక్స్. ఇవన్నీ మనం చూసుకోవాలంటే ఏం చేయాలి మనం? లైబ్రరీ దాంట్లో కూడా లైబ్రరీ సర్వేస్ అనేది ఉంటుంది. సర్వే ఈస్ వెరీ పాపులర్ మెథడ్ విచ్ వి అప్లై టు అండర్స్టాండ్ the problems of a large group of people or large area, right? Geographical area. So this is what it is. So survey and a survey deals with what? Survey anangane manaku idea em ravale? We are dealing with a number of people, number of subjects, large group, right? Okay, when you conduct a study on large group, we are calling it a survey. Can you conduct a study on a single subject? Single subject ante one individual, one case, one unit. Can we conduct or not?
Yes, sir.
We should, isn't it? But
Yes,
one more thing, we should understand that if you are conducting a study on single subject, is it a valid research? Is it useful research? Is it important research? This we will discuss later when we talk about this particular method of research, right? So, but sometimes what we do, we will conduct research on a single entity, single element, single unit, or single subject, single case. Doctors usually in medical sciences, they conduct case studies. Case studies and it is also called as case study. It is case study method of research. Case study method and case study anangane, you should clearly understand that it is a single unit. You are dealing with one unit only. So that is case study, right? So you have such, what do you call, methods of research, and then inka emanna unte meeru chadukondi. So now what shall we do? We will go ahead with experimental design. Experimental design ఒక్కటి మీరు అర్థం చేసుకుంటే మీరు ఏంటంటే you will be in a position to follow and then understand the significance of different research methods, right? So that is very important. ఇక్కడ ఏంటంటే experimental research అని మీకు యూనిట్ 5.3 లో experimental research is there. So the experimental research definition ఏమిచ్చిన basic concept, it is considered to be the prototype of the scientific method of problem solving. It involves procedures for gaining knowledge by collecting new or fresh observations under controlled conditions. It involves the use of independent and dependent variables. Try to understand this. So when do you conduct experimental research? And when you are trying to test the relationship between variables, right? So that is what here they are saying. It involves the use of independent and dependent variables. it is not exactly use or it involves the use of independent and dependent variables. Actually, experimental research is carried out to see what relation exists or how what effect independent variable will have on dependent variable. That is what it is actually. Okay. The former could either be controlled or manipulated to study its effect on dependent variables or criterion variables. See, now you understand this. Later, Malyaman Jeptunar Rilikada, the former ante independent variable, either be controlled or manipulated to study its effect. Why do we control or manipulate? Actually, for your kind information, I'm sorry, actually, it has out into Baad and actually, I should not criticize something, but itla unte na koncham alla meer etla ardham cheskuntaru endukante it is rather I should not of course I'm sorry, but fact is fact. Being an experienced teacher, I should say that if there is something wrong in it, I should say there is something wrong in it. See, the former could either be controlled and it is not exactly former is not controlled, please. Try to understand that independent variable, you are not controlling independent variable, right? But what is that you are controlling is you are controlling the intervening variables. There is no need or there is no question of controlling independent variable, please. There is always a need to control intervening variables because now, for instance, rice tinte weight gain అవుతుంది అనేసి చెప్పిన, రైట్? బట్ ఆయనకు రైస్ ఇస్తున్నాము, వెయిట్ చెక్ చేస్తున్నాం, కానీ ఆయన రైస్ ఇచ్చిన తర్వాత ఏం చేస్తున్నాడు, పోయేసేసి కిలో స్వీట్ తింటున్నాడు. అది కూడా ఏది మంచిగా పుల్లారెడ్డి స్వీట్ తింటున్నాడు ఆయన. ఓకే, మరి పుల్లారెడ్డి స్వీట్ కిలో రోజు తింటే ఏమవుతుంది? వెయిట్ పెరుగుతుందా పెరగదా? పెరుగుతుందో పెరగదో తెలియదు. దానికి కూడా మనం ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్ చేయాలి, దానికి కూడా మనం స్టడీ చేస్తేనే తెలుస్తుంది. కానీ మనకి ఇప్పుడు తెలుసు కదా, తెలుసు కాబట్టి చెప్తున్నా. ఇప్పుడు ఏమైంది, మనము రైస్ మీద ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్ చేస్తున్నాం మనం, బట్ వీ హ్యావ్ నాట్ కంట్రోల్డ్ హిమ్ in consuming other, what do you call, say other food that more calories. You understand? So what is the use? Appudu emaitante ayanaku rice, hello, there is
sir disturbance undi sir.
Okay, now are you able to follow this? And see, the thing is, we want to find out whether rice will have any effect, right? But then we don't know what he is eating outside, right? And he is eating pularity sweets outside. So naturally, he is gaining weight. After conducting study, actually rice to weight rakapochu kuda manaku telvadu kada. We are trying to find out whether rice consumption of rice causes gain of weight and SSC. We are trying to find out that, but then manam telvadu kabatte manam experiment chestunnam, and this man is going out and then he is consuming sweets and we don't know that. And what will happen finally when we keep on collecting data? 1 month 2 months tarvatano 3 months tarvatano ayana okatesari 100 kilos perigadu, 20 kilolodu ammo rice tinte 100 kilos perugutadi. Our conclusion will be, is it right conclusion or wrong conclusion? Is it right finding or wrong finding? It is wrong finding because we have conducted a wrong experiment, right? How we have conducted wrong experiment? Why we have conducted wrong experiment? Because we did not control the intervening variable. What is intervening variable? It is a variable that intervenes, that interferes, or that affects, that affects the relation between the independent and the dependent variables, right? So that is really causing a problem, right? That is all, that is nullifying the effect of, say, independent variable. So therefore, what is needed is not the farmer could either be controlled and the farmer could be manipulated. Actually be manipulated. Andukani there is one wonderful definition, adi adendante it is Festinger, the essence of an experiment may be described as observing the effect of observing wonderful padal observing the effect on a dependent variable of the manipulation of an independent variable. This is short ke cheppindi na. Okay, but manipulation of an independent variable అనేది ఆ డెఫినేషన్ ఎట్లుంటుందని అంటే it is experimental research is an examination. It is an examination or a test to find out the effect of the manipulation of the values of independent variable on dependent variable, okay, under controlled conditions. And this is much definition. Our definition because I am away from teaching teaching material department. So it is again after 3.5 years after retirement I am dealing with it. But again still I remember in what you call in general terms
Not visible, sir.
Kiran sir. Kiran, sir.
You are not visible, sir.
సార్ డిస్కనెక్ట్ అయిపోయారు సార్ కి చూసుకున్నారో లేదో ఆయన సార్ డిస్కనెక్టెడ్ పోనీ
ఇంటి మరి ఇంకా మెసేజ్ వచ్చినాయి రాలే ఏవి ఓపెన్ చేసి దాంట్లో మెసేజ్ వస్తాయి విఆర్ఓ
అందరు వేళ
మీ సార్కి చేయమంటావా డాడీ మమ్మీ సార్కి చేయమంటారు మమ్మీ మా డాడీ నా సార్కి చెయ్యి డాడీ
ఓ ఏం కాదు
మమ్మీ నాది పట్టమంటావా నాకు డాడీ నా క్లాస్ పట్టు
మీ క్లాస్ ఇవ్వాలా సండే కాదు ఇవాళ రేపు వస్తుంది
డాడీ ఫోన్లో ఉంది డాడీ ఇంకో ఫోన్ సండే ఇంకో ఫోన్ సండే అమ్మ
రాకేంద్ర
నీకేం భయం
క్లాస్ స్టార్ట్ అయితే చూడండి
అర్థండి
cemetery
ఏదిరా
అది తీసేసాను నేను ఆ ఫోన్ అతను పెట్టుకో డాడీ ఎందుకన్నా ఇవ్వండి ఇవ్వండి ఫ్లాట్ కరెక్ట్గా నైట్ ఏమంటామని కావాలా ఇంకా 2 days అయితే వచ్చేసి
విజయ్ గారు
మేడం
ప్లీజ్ మ్యూట్ యువర్ సెల్ఫ్ అండి.
ఓకే సారీ మేడం.